Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It sounds like there's some real enthusiasm here on the side of the choir. You kind of overwhelmed everybody else's enthusiasm. That's great. I love it. May it spread. Greetings. My name is Reverend Andrew Moeller, and it is a pleasure to be with you here this morning. I want to especially welcome those of you who are visiting today. We always love having visitors, whether you're here in the sanctuary or whether you're joining us on Zoom. And I'm noticing that my sound needs to be turned down. There we go. So we're glad that you are joining us here. If you are here in person, we hope that you will join us for coffee and conversation after the service. If you are online, we hope that you will hang out a little bit in the Zoom room. Our tech here will leave the Zoom up so that you can all visit a little bit and have kind of a virtual coffee hour for yourselves. Today I want to extend a special greeting of welcome, and let's pull that slide up. We have a congregation visiting us, the wonderful people from First Parish Northborough Unitarian Universalist Church, which is a really long name, but it's a great name, and I know these people very well because I did my internship in 2011 to 2012 with them. And they are also one of two congregations that co-ordained me back in 2015. So let's give a nice welcome. Yay! Welcome to the people from First Parish Northborough. My understanding is some of them might be joining us a little bit later on, not right at the beginning of the service because I had a little miscommunication about time, but we will be glad to see them when they arrive. Before we get started with our worship time together, I want to invite Phyllis to come forward and offer some announcements. What's going on, Phyllis?
We have so much going on because it's the beginning of our church calendar year once again. Evan Reichert wants me to remind people that the fall new to UU class will be Saturday, November 4th. And you'll bear with me because I forgot my glasses at home. 9:30 to 1:30. Oh, it looks like 9:30 to 11:30. Thank you. In person here at the church, you'll hear about UUSB's history, governance, youth programs, committees, and more. Childcare can be arranged if you let us know by October 28th. For more information, contact Eleanor Steele. Eleanor, hand up. Oh, and Kathy Elliott. Well, if you have wandered down into the vestry, you can see that Betsy and Kate, Betsy is Kate's mom who moved here. She's welcomed to the UUSB. They are the most dynamic duo for setting up our annual Great Pumpkin Yard Sale, which will be next Saturday, the 21st. Drop off, I think, is all this week in the afternoon, Sue? 3 to 6. Monday through Thursday, and then we'll be starting to officially set up on Friday afternoon. Helpers are always welcome, helpers for the yard sale as well. And if you have an opportunity to grab, do we still have flyers left? No, they're all out. But tell your friends and neighbors, because this is one of our huge annual fundraising events, and it's been so incredibly successful the last couple of years. So we really count on your help. From Lori Cartier, there is a pumpkin carving party that afternoon from 2 to 4:30. With some of the welcoming immigrant neighbors participating in something probably they've never done before, which is carve a pumpkin. So it's going to be here, correct? And we'll be in the vestry? Oh, no, no, because we'll still be in the Dorothy, because the vestry will still be full from the yard sale. Come and help, bring a pumpkin if you want, enjoy music, snacks, and great company, and help these families celebrate a very unique New England tradition. All of the spiritual exploration experience kids are invited to attend. Absolutely. Noted in your program, missing on Tuesday night is the mindfulness meditation class. Drew has said that that's been canceled for this week. And I believe that's everything. Oh, Pat Moulton has an announcement. Is it the fellowship group that's doing the Thanksgiving meal? Okay. All right. So if you didn't hear that all, there is now going to be a community open house sort of Thanksgiving meal set up, and that will be on Thanksgiving Day? Oh, Thanksgiving Day. So again, another opportunity to bring guests and neighbors in to the UUSB. All right. I think we have a lovely introit with our UUSB choir. Welcome back.
My religion is this beautiful earth, forests and fields and seas. My religion is this web of life and my connection to all beings. My religion is the wheel of the year and the moon and stars above. My religion is to hold all of this with love, love, love. My religion is this beautiful earth, forests and fields and seas. My religion is this web of life and my connection to all beings. My religion is the wheel of the year and the moon and stars above. My religion is to hold all of this with love, love, love. My religion is this beautiful earth, forests and fields and seas. My religion is this web of life and my connection to all beings. My religion is this wheel of the year and the moon and stars above. My religion is to hold all of this with love, love, love. With love, love, love.
Lighting our chalice this morning is Christina Diebold. Our Unitarian heritage holds us, bids us light our chalice in the name of freedom, in the light of reason, in actions of tolerance. We gather in community to celebrate our heritage of the freedom, reason, and tolerance.
Our, oh, we go. Switch over here. There we go. Our Universalist heritage bids us light the chalice in the name of faith, in the light of hope, and the actions of love. We gather in community to celebrate the heritage of faith, hope, and love. Let us bring this Unitarian Universalist heritage into our world and our lives today. Blessed be. Do you want to introduce the hymn?
Yes, opening hymn 298, Wake Now My Senses, 298.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Deep with the web of creation, your vast giving, receiving, as love shows us now. Wake now, my season, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quest for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy living and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
I now want to invite our young people to come forward for our story for all ages, 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 ages. Sometimes I need notes. Well, it's great to see you all here today. I see some sparkly dresses and comfortable clothing and a t-shirt with a microbus on it. It's all kind of groovy. Today, I'm going to tell a story about universalism. We talk about Unitarian and Universalism, and a couple weeks ago I told a story about where our Unitarian roots came from, or where Unitarianism kind of began. And so today I'm going to tell kind of a story about where Universalism began. Over 253 years ago, when the United States was still just 13 colonies, a man named John Murray lived in England. He was a minister and a preacher who had a really tough life. He grew up in a fairly strict household, and his parents belonged to a church where people were very serious. No one smiled, no one laughed, no one sang. The people of that religion believed that people were bad, and that God would only allow a few of those people into heaven when they died. Now, John and his wife heard about another minister who was preaching kind of a different message. He said, this other preacher said, people could be happy that God loved everyone, and so they would go to heaven when they died. This new religion was called Universalism. When people from the old church found out that John and his wife were going to this new church where they were happy, Their friends refused to talk to them, and they ignored them, which made John and his wife very sad. But soon afterwards, they became happy because Eliza had a baby, which made them both very, very happy, at least for a while. But soon after the baby was born, the baby got sick. Eliza got sick, and John had to borrow a lot of money to pay for doctors. He borrowed more and more money, but the doctors couldn't help his wife or his baby, and they both died. If that wasn't bad enough, John found that he couldn't pay the money that he owed to the people he had borrowed money from. And back in those days, when you couldn't pay back your debts, they put you in jail. And that's just what happened to him. John became very, very, very sad. With no family, no job, no friends, he felt like he was a failure. He felt like he had failed God, his family, and himself. And he decided that he would never, ever be part of a church again, and that he would never preach again for as long as he lived. After a few days in jail, however, Eliza's brother paid John's debts, and he was free. But John decided that he wasn't happy living in England anymore. He wanted to leave England and start a new life far away from all his sadness and woes. So he bought a ticket on a ship called the Hand in Hand and set sail for the new land across the ocean in a place called America. At first, it seems like John's bad luck continued. He had planned to sail to a place called New York, but ended up instead in New Jersey, when the ship got stuck on a sandbar and couldn't sail because the wind kept blowing the ship along the shore. And I think we have a picture of that. There we go. The ship stuck. So John Murray, after a little while, went ashore with some crew members to find some fresh food and water. And on the beach, he met a farmer named Thomas Potter, who invited him to his house for dinner. And there's a picture of Potter's house in the background. Thomas Potter was a very religious man, but he was not a very good speaker. He too believed that God was a God that loved all people and would accept everybody into heaven. He had so much faith in his beliefs that he actually built a church 10 years earlier, all by himself, hoping that someday a minister would come who would be able to preach what he believed. And now, it seemed like that just happened. He asked John Murray if he wanted to preach. But John had made a promise. He was never going to be part of religion again. He was never going to preach again. Thomas Potter finally made a bet with John Murray. He said, "If the winds don't change and your ship is still stranded here on Sunday morning, will you take that as a sign that you're supposed to preach in my chapel and preach the message of universal salvation?" Murray agreed after a lot of coaxing. So history has it that the winds in New Jersey kept blowing the ship on shore, and the ship remained stuck until Sunday morning. And so on September 30th, 1770, John Murray got up early, got dressed, ate his breakfast, and went to church to preach. He preached in that church that Thomas Potter had built. He preached of a God that loved and cared for everyone, a God that wanted to be happy and wanted people to sing and to dance, a God that loved everyone equally. He preached of universal salvation and the idea that everyone in the universe would go to heaven. He said, "You all possess a small light, so uncover it and let it shine." Afterwards, the people came to him after the sermon. They loved what he had to say. They wanted him to preach more, and so he did. So for over 9 years, John Murray traveled up the east coast of America, finally arriving in the town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, where he met some people who really liked what he had to say, and together with John Murray, they organized the first Universalist Church of America. John kept preaching for many years. He found a new wife, and together they had a child. But that's a story for another day. The church that Thomas Potter built doesn't exist anymore. It was torn down many years ago. But the Universalists are still here and now part of Unitarian Universalism. And if you do go down to New Jersey on the shores of Barrett Bay, you can stay in a special little Unitarian Universalist camp similar to Ferry Beach named Murray Grove, that was named in honor of John Murray, who decided to preach and let his light shine. Yeah. So, with that, we're going to let you let your light shine as you head downstairs for your spiritual exploration experiences.
Fall down in peace, fall down in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Fall down in peace, fall down in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Dear friends, please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Great universal spirit, interconnected web of which we are a part, we gather in this sacred space and time to hold up the joys and sorrows that make up the fabric of our lives. Today, we hold in our hearts those who have lost dear ones to sudden and tragic accidents. We hold those amongst us who are infirm or ill and who are healing. We also hold in our hearts the joys of reconnecting with friends, the struggles of falling back into old patterns that are not particularly welcome, and hearing about our young people and how they are doing well and coming into their own as adults and seeking reconnection to their faith. Spirit, we also hope and pray for the people of Israel and Palestine and Gaza, where there's a lot of violence and hurt and innocent people being killed. We pray for a swift solution. We pray that we are able to find some sort of way through the conflict and find more peaceful means for people to be heard, for people to be recognized, and for people to be given a chance to live. Spirit, we gather in this time and place because we know that each life tells an important story, and each life holds a deep and abiding truth. By coming together in this way and holding up our collective joys and sorrows, we grow closer to each other, and we grow closer to becoming one. Blessed be. Amen.
All the
Now is the time in our service where we think about how this congregation fills our own hearts and how we will give back in reciprocity and mutuality with our gifts for the plates that are going to be passed.
It is with gratitude that we receive the contributions this morning. Half of the unshared plate will go to support the Bangor Area Recovery Network, fondly known as the Barn, and the other half to support the work of this beloved community. We give thanks.
Remember, by Joe Harjo. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember.
Together we can make a difference. Together we can make a start. So put your hand in my hand. This song comes straight from the heart. Nothing can stand between us. United we are strong. With you, my friend, beside me, I know where I belong. We are the children of tomorrow. It's all up to us to find a better way, to find a better way. We are the children of tomorrow. We won't let a thing stand in our way.
We can change the land around us. We'll make the world a better place. With peace and love forever, friendship will lead the way. We'll teach the next generation. We believe we can.
Nothing is on desperation. The future is in our hands.
We are the children of tomorrow. It's all up to us to find a better way, to find a better way. We are the children of tomorrow. We won't let a thing stand in our way. We won't let a thing stand in our way. We won't let a thing stand in our
Just when you think the choir has topped themselves, they go and do it again. That was wonderful. I love that song with all the many voices present. Thank you. In our lives, we experience a tension between understanding where we came from, discovering who we are, and finding our purpose in life, of what we want to become. It sounds simple enough, but living through that tension can be more than we wish it would be. Holding those multiple truths in our awareness simultaneously is not easy, even for the most spiritually enlightened individuals. Even though that we know that the past affects our present, and our past and present form our future. This is why it is so wise for us to study our history and the history of the groups that we are a part of. 2 weeks ago, we explored our Unitarian Universalist Unitarian heritage through the lens of the Unitarian origin story of Queen Isabella of Poland and her prince son, King Sigismund, the only Unitarian king. And through the encouragement of his court spiritual advisor, who held the debate in Torda that led to the Edict of Torda, the first declaration of religious freedom in the Western world that happened over 450 years ago. We looked at how our Unitarian ancestors, through reason, developed the principle of religious toleration and acceptance that is still foundational to our contemporary Unitarian faith. Remember? There won't be a test on it at the end of the service. The origin story of our Universalist ancestors is a little bit more fleeting. Its origin can be traced back to the very roots of Christian thought. For some reason, however, a lot of that wisdom got squashed out or extinguished along the way. Today, in our modern Unitarian Universalist tradition, we tend to set the beginning of our Universalist history back to the arrival of John Murray's first sermon in America. Even though we know that there were people like Mr. Riley in England who were preaching Universalism before John Murray ever preached here in the New World. We also know that there were other itinerant preachers like George de Benneville, who preached a mix of mysticism and Universalist salvation almost 30 years before John Murray arrived on the shores of New Jersey. It's fascinating to see how both our ancestors, who came out of a liberal response to Calvinism and its severe dogmatic rigidity, focused on different aspects of faith and that served different human needs. The Unitarians saw a single divine presence, a need for toleration, and a need for individual religious freedom, while the Universalists came away with a focus on trying to understand the nature of God, a kinder God, a more loving God, that was so benevolent that God would bring all people back into relationship with them at the end of life, namely universal salvation. It is an easy way to sum up the differences, is the famous quote by the Universalist Unitarian minister from the 19th century, Thomas Starr King, who put it this way: "The Universalists believed that God was too loving to condemn people to everlasting damnation, and the Unitarians, they believed they were too good to be damned." Since we look at the origin of our Unitarian faith a couple weeks ago, today I would like to give some equal time to our Universalist heritage. What are the enduring characteristics of our Universalist tradition that linger with us today? How does Universalist heritage inform our Unitarian Universalist faith as we live in the moment and create our future? The answers are many. take a moment to just sit and look around this sacred space, a space that our Universalist ancestors created. The images, the light, the stained glass windows speak to us of a religion less based on debate and logic and more on sensual aspects of being, experiencing colors, shapes, the imagery in the stained glass windows, the glow of the natural light filtering through those windows. Let us not forget all the beautiful wood in the pews and the pulpit. This is a stark contrast to the whitewashed pews of many Unitarian churches. There is something different. I know when I first came here, I felt the sanctuary to be a little overwhelming to my nature-loving sailor minister type here who likes to look at the sky and see if the sky is clearing or clouding over and if the winds are fair or foul. But here in this place, there is a sense of otherworldliness, a sense of something sacred like heaven here on earth. This building that we inherited speaks to us not of logic and debate, but more about beauty, potential, reverence, and awe. This space, originally dedicated in 1862 and rebuilt in 1911, after the 1911 fire, was conceived as a sanctuary of refuge and safety. The architecture is solid. The organ behind me, when it is played, resonates to the deepest corners of our souls. Well, both our Unitarian and Universalist traditions have a tradition that uses thought and reason to reflect on spiritual issues of our time. Our Universalist ancestors brought the logic of the heart to bear on our theological thinking. From it came the tradition of inclusiveness, a belief that we are all part of creation and that all people are worthy, valuable, and acceptable just as we are, and are worthy of being reunited with the Creator when we leave this life. Well, the origin of our Unitarian or Universalist faith seems a little male-dominated from the story that I shared. The truth is that Universalists tend to embrace a little bit more of a shared ministry model that transcended gender. Thomas Potter, of course, built the church, and he looked for someone, a wounded preacher, to come and preach a message there. So that was kind of a shared ministry. The rest of the story didn't tell about the first church that John Murray founded in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Interestingly enough, the primary funding came for it from his wife's second wife's family. And his wife, Judith Sargent Murray, was a prominent essayist of the American Republic. She advocated for women's equality, access to education, and a woman's right to control their earnings. She even supported the new Murray family with her own writing at times when John was between preaching gigs. During that time, she had to publish under a pseudonym because women's voices were not allowed to be published back in those days. It's 1779 or 1780s. Both Universalists and Unitarians embraced congregational polity and an organizational structure, but there is a lot more evidence that the structures within Universalism were more empowering to women. In fact, the first woman to be ordained in North America was a Universalist. Her name was Olympia Brown. She was ordained in 1863. Her work as a suffragette, along with many Universalist women and men, embodied part of that Universalist theology that said that all are saved. We can spend our time here on earth tending to the needs of our fellow human beings instead of anguishing over our own individual salvation or well-being. Another thing that we sometimes forget about our Universalist origins is that the first Universalists, like Judith Sargent Murray and her husband John, is that they were Universalists but still Trinitarian. It wasn't until a self-educated son of a Baptist preacher named Hosea Ballou, who came from the hills of New Hampshire and rebelled against his father's religion, that eventually Universalists started to adopt some Unitarian theology. And Hosea Ballou created what is known as ultra-Universalism. Before that time, the Universalists were considered to be reformists in their beliefs of universal salvation, meaning that they believed that people who lived not so great lives might eventually be reunited with their Creator, but they also might spend some time in purgatory. But Ballou believed and taught that the Creator was like a loving parent. And what kind of a parent would want to see their children suffer? Even for a moment. And so Ballou embraced a theology of ultra-universalism. All people, when they died, would immediately be accepted by their Creator into heaven. Do not pass purgatory, do not collect $200. Ballou also embraced his ultra-universalism with those Unitarian beliefs about the oneness of God and religious freedom and the use of intellectual reason in addition to using the intuition of reason from the heart. Again, by freeing our spiritual energy here on earth, of not having to worry about being perfect in God's eyes, people were free from speculating about the nature of God, something that we could never really answer. But instead, we could appreciate the Creator and creation by embracing nature, of building loving relationships with creatures and our fellow human beings. In turn, we get to know ourselves better because we're not freaked out about trying to be perfect all the time. And our purpose is much easier to discern because we understand that we are part of nature and that we are related to all things. Well, I don't have beautiful pictures of faraway lands and smiling faces and old church buildings to show you today. I hope that what I have shared with you is still powerful enough. The origins of our Universalist heritage are just as meaningful today as they were when they were making history. We can see it reflected in many of our Unitarian principles. Think about the inherent worth and dignity. Think about the interconnected web of which we are a part. I also think they provide a solid theological base for us to stand on as we try to make sense of what it means to belong to a tradition that informs our life and helps us living into the future as we pray for the community of earth that is caught up in such difficult binary tensions of capitalism, racial inequality, and cultural competition. It reminds us of the deep truth that all people and all beings are a valuable part of creation. And if we pull ourselves away from trying to control each other and to prove that we have the right answers to religious and political thought, then maybe, just maybe, love can guide us into seeing what we need is actually each other. And that if we put as much effort into loving and caring for each other and this planet as we do in creating war and struggle with violence, then maybe, just maybe, love will guide us to building heaven here on earth. We don't have to worry about what comes next. Remember, remember, remember. Blessed be. Amen. I now invite you to join in singing our closing hymn, Love Will Guide Us. To the future, our precious children. Sorry, I didn't let Molly know that we're going to do those extra verses, but I really, really liked them, so it adds something to the service. So as we extinguish our Unitarian Universalist chalice flame, symbol of faith, hope, love, and connection, and the spirit of love that guides us through our days and through these troubled times, let us be reminded that although our time of worship has come to an end, our service to each other and to the world has just begun. Blessed be. I now invite you to join in singing our benediction. goodbye to our friends from Northborough, Massachusetts. Thank you for joining us.